All right, greetings and thank you for joining us at futuremoneytrends.com. I'm here with a legendary speculator and an author and mentor to, gosh, so many millions of people this man has helped not only make money, but a great awakening in their own lives and so many more things a human can accomplish once they let go of all the things we unfortunately are conditioned with in public schools and even from our own parents. Our guest today is Doug Casey. He's the founder of Casey Research, also author of The International Man, Crisis Investing, and recently The Speculator, as well as his new book, Drug Lord. Doug, thanks for joining us. Well,
it's a pleasure to be back here with you, Daniel.
Well, Doug, I wanted to have a great chat with you today about the cryptocurrencies when it comes to their evolution in where we are as humans and how we transact with each other, as well as a little bit about Trump, and hopefully we get on to a few more topics if we have time. So let's get right into it. Let's start off with the evolution of money itself and how humans transact. Everybody probably listening knows, you know, there was barter, there was gold, there's Russians used furs to pay taxes. I mean, all sorts of crazy things humans have done. Now we're using these fiat currencies. And now there's this cryptocurrency revolution, and it's very transformative. You've got the cryptocurrencies on one hand, and you've also got the blockchain itself. So I know you're somebody who studies history. You've been all around the world, probably more countries than a handful of people on the planet have been to. You've been to so many countries, but
105 actually.
105. So I mean, that's
155.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's got to be you and like 10 other people who've been to that many. So,
and of course, I'm talking to you right now from Argentina.
Yeah. So the evolution of money. What are your thoughts? Is cryptocurrency, you know, not something that's going to kill the dollar or fiat currencies? It's just the next step.
Well, here's the way I see it working. Actually, is that for the last few years, the U.S. government and other major governments in the world have been trying to get rid of their paper currencies. The U.S. is trying to get rid of the $100 bill, the 50, and even the 20. And of course, the rationale for this is to say, well, it's just terrorists and porn people and drug dealers and such that use cash. And of course, this is completely specious. It's ridiculous. It's actually evil because even the fiat paper currency that you have, forget about gold coins, which are much more intelligent as a way to hold your cash for the long term, they give you privacy. They let you do things that what the governments want to do is put everybody on cryptocurrencies, but not private cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ether. But the federal government here and other governments are coming out with their own national cryptocurrencies. And this is a disaster if people use them, because what it means is that all of your financial accounts, everything is totally in the ether. And that means that they totally control it. Everything that you buy, you sell, that you're paid, everything, your assets, will be completely under their control. So that's the way things are going for the time being. But look, I really believe that gold is again going to have its real day in the sun. It's about $1,300 an ounce today. I think it's going to go much higher. And yes, I've speculated in the cryptocurrencies, and they've treated me very well. But gold is where it's at for many, many reasons.
Do you think that there will be some sort of, just like there'll be national cryptocurrencies and blockchain payments that governments will back, do you think there'll be, or does there even need to be some sort of gold-backed cryptocurrency?
Well, there already is gold money, which is on the web and allows you to buy and sell and transfer gold and so forth. Yes, there has to be. You know, Bitcoin is a wonderful thing because it's allowing people to transfer money without using their bank, without using the SWIFT system internationally anywhere. It's going to be huge internationally because Americans forget the 75% of the people in the world live in countries that have currencies like kwaches and pulas and pesos and dirhams, things that are totally worthless outside the country that issues them and not worth much within them. And these people are all flocking to Bitcoin because it's got value outside their country. It's outside their banking systems, which are bankrupt and inconvenient. So this is a huge thing. And I think Bitcoin, although it's in a bubble right now, could become a much bigger bubble.
So, Doug, in the West, we're speculating in Bitcoin because clearly, if you're in the United States, I mean, I'm not going to get into the conversation about the dollar because I agree with everything you'd say about it. But for all intents and purposes, I'm not worried about what's going to happen to the dollar tomorrow morning. Now, so I'm speculating in Bitcoin, and I'm not using it to buy anything. I'm just hoarding it. In places like India and China, Argentina, Venezuela, all throughout Africa, there are people using Bitcoin to buy things. They're using Bitcoin to transact. I talked to an Indian fellow the other day, and he was telling me that they used to, as soon as they made a sale, they would convert it to gold. But now they make a sale and they convert it to Bitcoin because it's easier to spend. So you just said Bitcoin's in a bubble, but it's a kind of a complicated thing because it might be a speculation only in the West. But if in your observation, when you travel into more of the third world countries, some of the ones I mentioned, are they buying it for speculation or are they buying it to do business?
No, they're buying it as a store of value and to do business because in these countries with, you can say, yes, Bitcoin is volatile, but in many ways it's much more stable and much less volatile and has more value than these worthless currencies that are issued by these third world governments. And this is one of the big supports under the price of it. I mean, look, you've got people like John McAfee who are saying it's going to $1 million. Well, I don't know about that because I remember when I was given my first Bitcoin, it was $13. And it's very hard to determine what it's actually worth, what the value of it actually could be or should be. I don't know. Look, when something has gone up that many times in so short a number of years, I get edgy. That's why I say it's in a bubble, but it's going to be a bigger bubble because you're going to have not just millions, but billions of people around the world that are going to try to save in it and use it to transfer money. And the thing is that all over the third world, after food, shelter, and clothing, the next thing they all buy is a smartphone, but not a $700 Apple 7. Smartphones are available now in the third world for under $50, so almost everybody can afford them. And that's why they're all going to Bitcoin.
That's interesting. So when you talk about it being a bubble outside of, let's say, email or the internet, in your lifetime, have you ever had a chance to invest in something that is as transformative as the blockchain or the cryptocurrencies in such a way where even though you could say it's a bubble here in 2017, but the internet could have been, if you're looking at percentage gain or use, you could have said because it was so large, the internet was a bubble in, let's say, 1992, but it went all the way to 2002 as far as the .com stocks. Have you ever had an opportunity outside of the internet to invest in something like the blockchain or cryptocurrency?
Well, the example you just brought up of the internet is an excellent one because it all looked like etherware from the very beginning, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and even after it crashed, then there was a renaissance, which we've seen where the most expensive stocks in the world are all internet related, Facebook and, for that matter, Apple and Amazon. So, yeah, and I think that the blockchain is going to be the same. Like, for instance, right now, there are very few blockchain-related stocks out there. I was a very early investor in one called Hive Blockchain, which is traded in Canada, but it's going to be coming to the U.S. And it's had a hyperbolic price rise. But how much higher could it go? I mean, people said that Amazon was the river of no returns, of no return or returns back when it was $30. And look what's happened to Amazon. It's a new world. And of course, cryptocurrencies are just the first and most obvious application of blockchain technology. So this is interesting.
Doug, in addition to cryptocurrencies, my letter, Future Money Trends, covers Hive, and I also own shares, so I want to be very open about that. I'm just curious, when you partnered or bought shares of Hive, did you use the same criteria that you used for the resource stocks? Because you've talked about people, and I know you know the people there with like Frank Holmes and the Fiore Group. And their business model, I personally like it because they're basically hoarding the stuff, Virgin Coin. So how did you choose Hive? Was it a people play originally?
Yeah, look, the Fiore Group, great people. Frank Holmes, great guy. The Genesis guys, I mean, some of the biggest miners in the world, computer geniuses. So, yeah, sure. And I'm not anxious to sell the Hive that I own because it could go much, much higher. So that's the way I feel about it. I'm afraid about the market as a whole because the stock market has been going up, up, up for so many years. But the question is, why has it been going up? It's not because the economy's been booming. It's because all of these central banks are printing scores of trillions of currency units all over the world. And it's driving money into financial assets like this. So that's supporting the stock market. When are they going to stop creating all this money? I don't think they can or they will. They're not able to at this point. It's out of control. So maybe the stock market as a whole is not going to crash. It doesn't matter how high it gets. It could go a lot higher before the inevitable happens.
Yeah, I mean, every pension fund and retirement fund is dependent on it. It has to go up. They have no choice, which moves us to...
Well, but the good news about this, Daniel, is, and I hate to see an economic catastrophe, which is what it's building towards, as good news. But in the meantime, the good news is that it's creating bubbles everywhere. And bubbles are the enemy of the economy, the enemy of civilized society. But in these days, you're forced to be a speculator. And if you think like a speculator, then bubbles are your friend, because we have to figure out, where is the next bubble going to be? I think the next bubble is going to be in commodities generally, which are still down about 50% from their previous peak in roughly 2011. And and resource stocks, frankly.
So Doug, in the last year, we've seen wages up, unemployment down. I know those are government numbers, but consumer confidence is up. The Dow is up dramatically. And I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. And I don't think anybody will ever do a study or anything on this, but so I've talked to some of our mutual friends who run gold bullion companies and some survival supply gear. And their collapse in sales is like upwards of like 80, 90%. I mean, it's crazy. Like one of them making $5,000 a day every email on survival gear went down to like $100, $200. I mean, crazy stuff. And I'm curious to know your thoughts. Is this the Tea Party people who've been buying gold, guns, and survival gear for the last 8 years, buying stocks and consumer goods in the Trump economy that's helping give the U.S. a little lift here?
That is an excellent observation. And I'll tell you what my experience has been on this. I was at a mining show in San Francisco about 2 weeks ago. And it was a mining show, gold, silver, other resources of all types. Nobody wanted to talk about those things. They all wanted to talk on the panels and everything about blockchain and Bitcoin and so forth. Now, that was two bells ringing to me. One is that this is getting me a little bit scary about the price of Bitcoin because, all these people are talking about it. And the second thing, it's really the bell ringing at the bottom of the market for gold and silver. So that's where I'm much more interested in investing right now. There's another thing I'd observe. It's that the biggest adopters of Bitcoin very early were libertarians. Libertarians tend to be science fiction guys. They tend to be techie, freedom-oriented guys, like myself, for instance. And we've had libertarians come from nothing and turned into multi-billionaires in a matter of a few years. This is most unusual and most gratifying. It's one reason why I hope that Bitcoin and its crypto buddies don't crash, because finally there's a lot of libertarians with good ideas that now have money to put the theory into practice.
Sure. And what's interesting, in 2012, I showed up to a blockchain conference in Vegas, and I'll never forget walking out of that conference, because I really felt like the next Steve Jobs or Bill Gates was in that room, because these people who at the early stages of the cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, they were not doing this almost, I would say, for the money. They were paying out of their pocket to try to get people to meet at Starbucks to learn more about Bitcoin. They were doing these free meetups all over Nevada. It was more of a life's purpose and a mission. And with that, what you said about the libertarians, this is a meaningful solution, to fight or to have transform society to a next level post government. And because the technology is there that we don't have to have government, clearly, I think it's obvious to most thinking minds. But now we have the currency coming into play, and we already communicate. I don't want to fight with people who live in Iran. I don't want to fight anybody in this world. Now we can all communicate. So with what you're saying, though, this is not even a profit, vehicle for a lot of these people that are part of the blockchain. They are trying to transform the world. Is that your observation as well?
That is exactly my observation. It was interesting. Roger Ver put out a press release several months ago saying, and he's gone dark about this since that press release, saying that they've raised $100 million to buy political sovereignty from a third world country that would like to sell some of its land for political sovereignty and $100 million. Now, this is interesting. This is the kind of thing that's going on. And perhaps it's another reason why governments all over the world hate Bitcoin and are trying to clamp down on it and replace it with their own national cryptocurrencies, which you'd have to be an idiot to use. If the U.S. comes out with FedCoin, which they probably will, you'd have to be a fool to use it if you can avoid it. Yeah,
with the enthusiasm too. Just let's look at Frank Holmes, who's a mutual friend of ours. He's built some great businesses. He's been there at some of the largest companies in the resource sector, as well as ETFs with U.S. global investors. Whenever I get a text from him, and I'm sure you get the same type of text or when you speak with him, I've never seen him so enthused and so focused. And I would say that about a lot of the people with the Hive blockchain technologies, the Genesis people as well. I know you probably saw Frank Holmes in San Francisco. Did you get a chance to talk to him about the blockchain? Because when he talks blockchain and when he talks Hive, my goodness, I've never seen such a powerful deliverer of someone who's so focused and who's already successful. He's now doing this just out of pure enthusiasm.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And it's one reason I want to continue holding my Hive, because all of the people in back of it understand the potential of the blockchain. They're technically excellent, and they'll be developing other new things in the future. And it bears emphasis that the cryptocurrencies are just the first and most obvious application of blockchain. So getting into the right blockchain company could be very, very rewarding in the future, like getting into Microsoft in the early days. Entirely possible.
Doug, I want to ask you an interesting question that really goes into free markets. An economist like yourself who can give us an assessment on the markets, because you've got companies like Amazon and Tesla. Let's specifically talk about Amazon because almost everybody listening to this uses it. It's extremely convenient. But we have a problem. These are welfare queens. Amazon is totally being subsidized by the U.S. Postal Service. It's wreaking havoc with retail institutions. Now, maybe all of this would have happened anyway. Maybe all the brick and mortar places would have died on their own in 20 years. But it's been accelerated with the aid of government. And same thing with Tesla. It's eating into actual sustainable profit-making car companies' market share because they're not only is Tesla being subsidized, but their customers are subsidized. How does the market sort through this type of dysfunction where you have welfare queens literally taking over market share, and Amazon specifically is just killing all the competitors because it doesn't have to make any money, not profitable, and it's totally subsidized by the U.S. government postal service.
Yeah, well, this gets back to why the rich are getting richer and the poor, or at least the people in the middle class and below, are getting poorer. Because with the government subsidizing, who do the subsidies go to? They go to these giant organizations that are in a position to hire the lobbyists and the lawyers to get the money flowing in their direction. And the rich people that live in financial centers are standing right next to the fire hydrants of money that are being created by they're getting richer, and there's just something that may trickle down to the poor people. So this is a huge problem. Government, it's always been dysfunctional and by its nature corrupt because it uses force to impose its will on society. But it's gotten so big right now that it's really quite out of control. And, take Tesla. I applaud Elon Musk's vision and his genius, but I don't applaud the fact that he's using, in effect, taxpayer money, directly and indirectly, to put his vision into effect. No, it's very disappointing. Things are going.
Doug, college. I got to say, I've got little ones. I'm wondering what's the point at this stage, because there is nothing that I can't give a college can't give me anything that I can't freely get within 10 seconds on Google for free. I mean, I'm seriously wondering, what is the point of college at this stage of the game? I don't know why anybody would pay a penny to go to one unless you need some sort of government license. It no longer makes sense. And I would extend that to even the public school system. I mean, they're sitting there teaching kids how to write in cursive. What the hell's the point? Teach them to type, teach them to code.
It's much worse than that, because if you were paying a gigantic amount of money to sit in a classroom and be bored most of the time, fall asleep in class because you've been out partying the night before, which is mostly what happens, and you can't read your notes. College is a huge misallocation of time in the world of the internet, but it's much worse than that today. Why? Because the universities and colleges have been totally captured by the cultural Marxists and the gender, political identity people and so forth. Almost all of the professors in colleges have this socialist view of the world, and they inculcate this directly or indirectly in the people that are sitting in their classes. So people are paying $50,000 a year to be indoctrinated with this nonsense. And so many of the courses, they're not STEM courses, science, technology, engineering, math, medicine, that type of thing. No, they're gender studies and things like politics and history, things you should English that you should learn entirely on your own. So, and people that give money to these universities in donations, in addition, it's disgusting. I mean, no, it's horrible. The whole system has got to be flushed. So if your kids are not of college age yet.
No, they're under 8.
Well, okay, fine. The colleges and university system may not even exist by the time it's ready for them to go. But instead of allocating that money to send them off to be indoctrinated, send them off traveling, backpacking for a year around South America and then Africa, which is where all the opportunity is in the future, incidentally, and the Orient. And they'll get a fantastic education in all ways, and have them reading. No, the whole system is just corrupt. Got to get a college education. It's crazy, and debt yourself, turning yourself into a serf, and have your mind corrupted. It beggars the imagination. If you're going to go to a college, if you must, then at least you must go to some place like Harvard or Yale or Princeton or Stanford. It's the same nonsense, the same bullshit education you'll get there, but at least your fellow students will have had to jump through a lot of hoops. They'll have to be highly intelligent and or very rich, and that can be of value to you. The education, so-called, no, not a value. But so if you're going to do it, you've got to do it in one of the top 10. And
the network of friends that you'll benefit from that.
Exactly.
Okay, Doug, last question. It would be interview malpractice if I do a Doug Casey interview and not ask you about the current state for the gold shares and gold market, because gold is up this year, but the gold shares have felt like worse than the bear market in 2013 and 14. What's going on?
Well, every time I talk about these junior gold stocks and exploration stocks, I always like to preface my comments by saying, look, it's a 19th century choo-choo train business. It's a dying business where people are still playing around in the dirt with big yellow trucks. And in a generation, the asteroids are going to be mined for all these things that we're digging up the earth for now. It's a horrible business, from trying to find the deposit to I could give you an hour lecture about why it's a ridiculous business. That said, it's a highly cyclical business. It goes way, way up and then way, way down. And for many reasons right now, not least of them, is the fact that commodities have been in a bear market since 2011, quite a while now. And the stocks have been dying on the vine. This is a superb time to buy them. Nobody wants them. Nobody's thinking about them. It's the only area of the stock market, practically, that's not booming, that's not in hyperspace. So my opinion is that over the next cycle, next few years, that market as a whole, junior exploration stocks, the good ones, preferably, but you can buy the crap too, because when the wind blows, even the turkeys fly. I think it's that area of the market's going to go 10 for 1 in just a few years, because it's not even a nano cap part of the market. It's a pico cap part of the market. Very, very volatile. So that's where to be, in my opinion, Daniel.
All right, Doug Casey of Casey Research. Everybody check out his new book, Drug Lord. And if you haven't had a chance, make sure you read Speculator as well. Again, Doug, if somebody wants to reach out to you, is the best place to go Casey Research, or where should they go?
Well, they should subscribe. They can go online to internationalman.com. It's a great free daily blog. It's actually, we should charge for it, but it's free and it's great. And we have great articles at caseyresearch.com that are free too. So go to those two places.
All right, Doug. Doug Casey, thank you so much again for your time. Thank you for being so generous.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel.